A warm welcome to this lecture today, to our friends here and also to our friends who are joining us online. The aim of this talk is to draw our attention to the deeper realm of harmony and peace, hidden within our own being. If we want ultimate fulfillment, then we need to experience this realm directly, be one with it. And this is possible. Actually, it is close at hand, and our present experience can be made an aid to our awakening. If we fix our resolve and do the practices that are recommended to us, which include meditation, we'll find ourselves on a path that makes for real and ongoing progress in life, leading to enlightenment. Harmony usually concerns the right relationships or relationship between people or things. And in the world of the five senses, harmony applies most intensely to what we hear. If we listen to a piece of music or hear someone singing, we may find even a single wrong note unpleasant. When this happens, it creates a disturbance in the form of a reaction. And chances are that such a slip is likely to stay in our mind more vividly and a little unfairly than all the good things we have heard. So sensitive is our ear to harmony. What about harmony in our own life? We know this is not so easy. Our relationships are often challenged by unexpected discords. To live harmoniously, we have to be patient with one another. And then there is the question, is the harmony within my own mind and heart? And this is not so easy to achieve. As human beings, we are naturally stirred by various desires, things we want but lack, or experiences we crave to repeat. There are also the negative desires, the conditions or situations we would rather be free from, but lack the power, opportunity, or courage to force a change. And then our dissatisfaction is turned inward. But it doesn't just drop away because we want it to. It breeds in our mind and robs us of harmony. Quite apart from our personal likes or dislikes, life itself is endlessly inventive in creating situations that mar our peace. There are always pressures and uncertainties, and these leave us strained and tense, unless we have an antidote, an inner remedy to put ourselves right. So what is the way to establish our heart and mind in a deeper harmony, undisturbed by outer influences or inner doubts? It is the way of illumination. This illumination is our birthright. It is our highest potentiality as human beings. And there is a definite path to its realization. One could say there are several paths to the goal. And the yoga of self-knowledge and its non-dual philosophy is one of these paths. Friends, let us consider 3 stages of this development. And we will call the first stage how to harmonize the inner forces of our personality And this itself will prove the means to the second stage. How to awaken our higher potentiality for spiritual intuition and vision. And this third stage is philosophical reflection and affirmation that will expand our sense of identity from individuality to universality. The underlying idea is that every heart is a treasury of beauty, goodness, harmony, peace, and wisdom. But we need to search carefully within in order to access this treasury. And this assumes that in our true nature, we are more than the restless mind and the mortal body. Our true being is infinite, peaceful, ever fulfilled, pure being, eternal consciousness. It abides as the basis of our nature. And this is our true I. And our aim, friends, is a kind of return home to what we really are. The way ahead turns out to be a gentle but purposeful U-turn. This homeward direction leads us, as an ancient prayer expresses it, from darkness to light, from error to truth, from death to immortality. Our first approach to enlightenment is to learn how to cultivate a harmonious inner atmosphere that will hold strong whatever the outer situation. There is a Chinese saying, you devote much time to combing your hair. Why not your heart? The answer is simple. It is much easier to view one's hair and organize its flow and direction than to examine and influence the subtle world of our thoughts and feelings. Yet we do have the power to guide our thoughts and to ensure that we experience what satisfies us in the highest sense and what is best for our well-being. And we develop this capacity to guide our inner life with the help of meditation and other practices. Our desire for inner peace and wisdom is a guiding light in this development. Once we feel a need for this internal harmony and try to develop it, inner changes will take place. But first we need to get some idea of what is happening in our mind that makes it so hard to control. And the first great practical point is to be grateful, to be thankful that our mind is so active and vital, because this vitality and activity proves that we have an abundance of energy. Thoughts and feelings, whatever their specific flavor or content, are expressions of energy. Don't be surprised about their liveliness. They are expressions of life, of our living power. And the point about energy is that it can be transformed into a higher form if you know the technique. In fact, this endless stream of mental energy has its origin, its source, in the infinite life and power at the core of our being, in our infinite or transcendent spiritual nature. And the ancient investigators, whose experience is recorded in the Upanishads, realized there is something of a key importance about our mental energy and its source. And in their own meditations, in inner silence, not debate, but inner quietude, they sought to track down and uncover the very source of our life energy and mental brilliance. They asked, in the words of the Kena Upanishad, by whose power does the mind directed go towards its object? And they learned how to get the best from this field of energy and potentiality called the mind. The first great insight of the non-dual teachings is that the inner life itself has a deeper and purer source. That source is our I, our true self. So our quest means gaining a right understanding of our true identity. And this leads to a further insight into the role of our mind, the realization that the mind is an instrument of our higher self. It is a wonderful instrument because it is an energized instrument. And once we can assimilate these ideas about the mind, we have the possibility of a great release. That liberation is the freedom from feeling that we are the mind and are entangled in its limitations. Our true self is independent of the mind. And taking our stand on our true self, we learn to look on our thoughts and feelings in the way suggested, as expressions of energy which, like physical energy, can be channeled and transformed. What can this inner energy, expressed as unceasing mental activity, be transformed into? The higher consciousness that is filled with peace and inner light. This possibility of transforming the mind is the basis of education, but its highest application is often overlooked. Nonetheless, the whole of life, both inner and outer, can be guided to this illumination. This means all our activities, thoughts and feelings can be made a help to us on our path to enlightenment. Meditation will give us some degree of leverage on this vibrant inner life. We will find there is a means to calm ourselves down and rest in a deeper level of our being. And from that deeper level, we will realize that there actually is no power forcing us to follow our thoughts, as if we were the thoughts. Instead, we will find ourselves witnessing the thoughts, observing them from a free and impersonal standpoint at the center of our being. This repositioning of our understanding doesn't just happen. We need strong backing from the way we live. And this leads us back to the idea of harmony. For our life needs to be in harmony with our higher quest. To bring about this self-discovery, there are teachings for the outer life and also for the inner life. We are given not rules of conduct, but certain principles, certain good thoughts and feelings to nurture that are based on a spiritual outlook. And these are values such as equanimity, compassion, fellow feeling, universal goodwill, peace, love, and light. They're nothing new. We already have them, and they do shine through in life. But it is through deepening and widening these innate tendencies in ourselves that the real inner treasury will be revealed. The idea is, if we soak our mind in these principles, their influence will automatically be expressed in daily life and will dominate our personality. You will find that all the qualities of character that we're encouraged to develop are based on an enlightened vision of the underlying oneness of all life. From this point of view, the impulse to harm another is the same as ultimately harming oneself, because we violate the law of universal love and unity. Similarly, the great virtue of compassion expresses our intuition of our oneness with those for whom we have compassion. Friends, there are many ancient prayers which breathe this spirit of universality. For example, one of the prayers found in the Vedas expands on the theme, "May my mind ever think of the good of all beings." That mind, which is a means of divine knowledge, which has the capacity to know what is best for all beings, may that mind of mine ever think of the good of all beings. It is a prayer for inner change. And we note that the speaker doesn't say, "May I think," but "May my mind think." And there is a difference. For it is the mind that is being shaped, not the I. We are speaking to our own mind, tutoring it from the inside, and telling it how it should think and feel. And this self-tutoring is one of the great practical principles that we apply at every stage on the way to enlightenment. Such qualities as universal goodwill are not just meant for our casual approval. They are meant to be impressed on our mind and pass into its depths. So we focus on such ideas in the dedicated time of meditation. As we know, at this time there is relative clarity of focus, free from the distractions of outer stimuli. And from this basis of concentrated attention, we will find that in time these qualities will express themselves in our daily life. Let us now just pause for a minute or two and let's do a breathing practice together that incorporates two of the great spiritual qualities we are asked to cultivate. And they are equanimity and harmony. And the practice is to breathe a little more deeply than usual, imagining we're drawing up the in-breath from the navel to the space between the eyebrows. And we let the in-breath and out-breath be the same length. And then on the in-breath, take the word equanimity. And on the out-breath, harmony. And this is one of the ways we can ensure that these values enter the mind's depths and do not fade away like pleasant lines of a poem. So let us do the practice now together. Om. equanimity, harmony. As regards equanimity, we hardly need reminding that when there is a crisis or risky situation, our greatest psychological friend is equanimity or calmness, because this will allow us to retain our clarity of thought and see things in perspective. But this inner strength has to be cultivated, and one of the ways is to practice in the way suggested. What will we gain through meditation and a life devoted to the inner freedom of enlightenment? The mature attitude is not to seek to gain anything, because the greatest gain of all is already achieved. It is our own true self, which is ever present in its eternity and infinity at the core of our being. But relatively speaking, we can speak of a gain, because every time we meditate, every time we expose our mind to pure ideas based on infinite truth, our mind undergoes subtle changes that are in harmony with wisdom and self-purification. The cumulative effect of our regular endeavors is that our mind will reveal within itself a new and higher faculty of understanding. And we can call it the intuitive faculty, the potential intellect, the eye of wisdom. And in Sanskrit, it is called buddhi. The word has the same root, bud, as the word for awakening, as when, for example, we are restored to our normal consciousness from sleep or after an anesthetic. The word buddhi has a range of meanings. It can denote intellect or will as ordinarily understood. In a meditative context, buddhi denotes that phase of our intellect that unfolds when our mind makes persistent efforts to calm itself and follow the values that we mentioned earlier. Then this higher phase of our mind, this higher consciousness, begins to shine through. The mind now realizes that there is a range of experience far deeper and richer than the surface waves of thought and feeling. This higher refined experience is characterized not by words or images, but by depth, richness, satisfaction, and the sense of greater things to come. By greater things to come is meant still greater revelations of the true, infinite nature of our consciousness and being, the perfection of the real self, the I. So our higher instrument of inner progress is a capacity or aptitude already present in our mind, but in a sleeping or latent form, and it has to be awakened. Yet it is part of our human endowment and can be awakened. And this awakening is the key to happiness. This higher faculty of knowledge and peace reveals and uncovers the supreme source of satisfaction. Now let us ask, who is qualified for such a development? This development is available to anyone who feels dissatisfied with the present inner state and is willing to make exertions to transcend it. Progress in this matter depends on our expanding self-knowledge. But the self to be known is not the mosaic of a psychological self with its innumerable fragments and fixed patterns. The self to be realized is the underlying ground of being and consciousness, the hidden support of our mental life, and the ultimate light that makes any form of experience possible. And the following meditation text points to our true nature and also the way to actualize it in our experience. I am the self-aware spirit. To forge freedom and happiness in silence is my duty. I am the self-aware spirit. To forge freedom and happiness in silence is my duty. Om. Our final theme for discussion concerns our identity in the light of what has been said about the true nature of the self and also about the role of our mind as the energized instrument of the self. What can this mean? When we set out on a path of inner development or self-training for a higher purpose, we discover, sooner or later, powers of leadership in ourselves. This does not mean the power to lead others, It means the power to steer our own thoughts and emotions in a direction that will advance our achievement of inner harmony on our path to enlightenment. Our leadership role may be weak and uncertain at first, but if we persevere, we will find that it is based on a great truth. The innermost self is the firm and unshakable peak of our being. It is altogether superior to the region of continuous change in which our mind operates. And in the Upanishads, the real self is called the inner ruler. The path to higher wisdom involves learning to transfer our sense of identity from the mind to this innermost principle of sovereignty and leadership, ultimately to be revealed as one's own true self. This means maturing our capacity to stand back from the mental activity, whether of thought or feeling, and view it with detachment, as something external and separate from our true nature. At present, we may feel completely identified with our inner life, and that this world of thoughts, feelings, desires, fears is the real me. As such, it is simply not possible to stand back and view this world within our own mind objectively. And yet, if we reflect on the matter, there is a sense in which the stream of thoughts and feelings is like an unending film or documentary that is viewed or witnessed by a deeper self. And more than this deeper observing awareness does not share the active and passing character, of the mental life. If there were not this eternal witness which knows our mind from the inside, we would never be aware of one thought leading to another. Nor would we be able to monitor or comment on our changing feelings, as we often do. For instance, when we say such things as, "At first I felt nervous, but after a while I began to relax." We would be unconscious of these psychological changes if there were not a stable witnessing consciousness that does not change and is not involved in the process of change. This internal, changeless witness points to the nature of the self as eternal consciousness. It is an insight which, when reflected on, can open the way to transcend our identification with the mind. Friends, our mind is our energized instrument. Its destiny is for its energies to be channeled, transformed, and applied to higher ends. Strong winds in the normal course of things do not serve a planned and creative purpose. But those same winds driving the turbines of a wind farm can generate electrical energy and provide a pollution-free source of electricity to whole communities. In the same way, our mental and emotional energies generally express themselves spontaneously. We do not normally think about conserving or redirecting these interior forces. Even if we have an overall life plan, it usually relates to our life in the world. But if these same great inner energies of thought and emotion are controlled and directed to self-realization, our inner being can be transformed and completely uplifted. The quality of our experience will then become one of inner illumination, carrying within itself the fulfillment of all the deeper needs of human nature. So the message of the non-dual teachings is therefore one of very great hope. Our outer opportunities may be restricted, but there is nothing to stop anyone from making an advance on the inner plane. And the materials for the quest are within us, in the form of the inner forces of our personality. And above all, the goal we seek is already and eternally within us. It is the true self, God within, the ground of being, the truth of all truth. If we absorb and apply the practical wisdom of the Illumined sages, we can confirm for ourselves the validity of this deeper vision of human nature, our own true nature. Thank you, friends. Thank you for your attention.